Over 137,000 Australians took advantage of Homebuilder. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee. We're going to talk about good old Homebuilder. You know, that government intervention to stimulate the economy that kind of saved all the tradies and stimulated the housing market? Well, over 137,000 Australians took advantage of it, and some people are raving about it. So let's look at the release here from the Honourable Michael Sukkar, MP. Homebuilder program is the economic gift that keeps on giving. Now, in some regards, he's right here. The reason that this was done was to stimulate the economy. Now, you'll see there were calls, often many calls, and from the Guardian of all places, not unsurprisingly, Homebuilder was a blunder. Spend the money retrofitting social housing instead. Oh, boy. Okay, now you're having people, he's not even calling for new social housing, he's calling for retrofitting existing social housing. Now you have people that are more interventionist and left-leaning calling for social housing, probably from a right position. They feel that we should be taking care of the people doing it tough and provide a house for those people. Now, you've got to understand that's not the purpose of Homebuilder. Not at all. And it's not it's not to buy votes or to throw money at people who don't need it. The purpose of Homebuilder was to get economic activity going, was to get maximum bang for the buck that the government is spending. That was the point. Now, if you think that's right or wrong, and I'll just bring up this chart here to show you just one little thing, the huge amounts of government debt that just keeps growing at a state and federal level. But don't worry about that. That's future generations. They wanted to keep the economy going, and they wanted to get the most bang for their buck. And in that regard, it's better to spend it on, the private sector than to put it into public housing, because the private sector will fight a bit harder to get value for their money, and it will go further. Because remember, for every 15,000 or 25 grand that the government spends, they changed the rules a few times, the minimum entry point was $150,000. If you were spending less than 150 grand on your project, you couldn't get any home builder. Couldn't get any. But if you were spending, more, well, then you got it in. Often, a home builder would pull projects forward, guys. That's what it would do. It's pulled work forward. So I'm on the phone now. Tradies are still pretty busy, but some are, the next few months are probably going to be a bit quieter than what it was. It may return to sensible levels, not the insanity that it was. So let's have a look through this and look at a few more things. So, the final application numbers for the home builder program have confirmed the incredible success of the scheme, with 137,621 Australians applying for the Homebuilder grant. Analysis from Master Builders Australia estimates that the potential economic boost potential of the Homebuilder supported projects is $120.62 billion, with the program directly supporting 374,340 full-time jobs. Okay, now this is this 120 million isn't just from those projects. It's the economic impact of it. So it will flow through the economy. But for the money that the government spent, and I've done the sums here, if we say of those people each got the 25 grand, which they didn't, but what do we have there? 3.5 billion roughly in grants to people for 120 billion of economic activity. Could do worse, and they'll get a lot of it back in GST anyway. Homebuilder was specifically designed to protect tradies' jobs and turbocharge economic activity in the construction industry. Well, the problem is it overheated the market. Everything's gotten more expensive. Supply chain issues have just made it even worse. So, but they don't care about that. This isn't free money, guys. Okay, you may think it may feel like it's free money. This is a way to manipulate people into doing construction work now rather than in the future. Particularly residential construction in response to the downturn caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Homebuilder has also given Australians confidence and support to enter the new home market, with first home ownership at its highest level in over a decade, with over 300,000 Australians supported into their first home with the help of the Morrison government. Now, this is not just Homebuilder. This is the 5% home loan guarantees. It's the 2% home loan guarantees. It'll be the first home grants. It's just crazy how much money was thrown at the housing sector. This is Australia, guys. This is what we do. And it gets bang for their buck. Because let's have a look here. Say this is what we had. 3.5 billion, 320 for an average home, not counting land. You'd probably get 10.5, 11, let's be generous, say 11k homes built, not counting land. And if the government was doing it with social housing, it would be multi-story, it'd be greater density, so you'd get a bit more. But this is, for a decent size spec home, 11,000 for that money. Where look here, 120 billion of economic activity. And sure, that 3.5 billion, if it was put right into social housing, that will be magnified and flow through the economy, but not to the same extent, everyone. And I would say these 374,000 full-time jobs, that's keeping more people out of welfare and more reducing the demand on social housing. See, this is the argument I would put forward. You don't want to provide social housing for people. You want to have an economy where it's not necessary, where the government doesn't need to intervene, where the charities and people out of their good nature are doing enough to deal with that, where the economy is powering ahead so much, there's so many job opportunities, there's demand for workers, that you don't need to worry about that. You don't need to steal people's money to redistribute, to give housing to people. Maybe that's a bit of a pipe dream, but hey, if you don't steal as much money out of people, maybe they can afford to get their own house. Don't need to depend on the government housing. Assistant Treasurer, Minister for Housing and Minister for Homelessness, Social and Community Housing, Michael Sukkar, said every one of the 137,621 Homebuilder applications received meant more work in the pipeline and more jobs for Aussies. The Homebuilder program is the economic gift that keeps on giving. The economic activity and full-time jobs supported by Homebuilder proves the Morrison government's economic plans are working. Every one of the 137,000 Homebuilder applications received represents a signed contract, which means more first home buyers into their first house and more jobs in the construction sector. Homebuilder continues to ignite the residential construction industry and has been a key part of the Morrison government's economic recovery plan out of the COVID-19 pandemic. The direct economic impacts of Homebuilder and the nationwide flow-on effects will be seen well into 2023. Based off these final application numbers, Master Builders Australia estimates Homebuilder has boosted economic activity in Australia by 120 million, with the value of works being supported by Homebuilder at 41.6 billion. Okay, so the value of works, the construction work that happened because of Homebuilder, because they gave this money to private people, was worth 40 billion. Whereas if the government was just spending that on social housing, it'd only be 3.5 billion. And that's generous. So they're 10xing their impact, more than 10xing their impact, just in that initial hit and not the flow-through of the money. That's what the point was of this. So if someone says it should be spent on social housing, say, okay, but it wouldn't have had the same economic impact. That's why. That's the reason. Seems sensible, guys, if that's what you're aiming for. Economic stimulus, not socialist housing. And after what happened in Melbourne with the government locking people in their bloody public housing, do you want to stay in them? CEO of Master Builders Australia, Danita Warm, said programs like Homebuilder help stimulate the building and construction sector at a time when the country was facing the worst recession since the Second World War. Thanks to measures like Homebuilder, which is driving 41.6 billion in direct home building activity and supporting more than 120.6 billion of activity in the wider economy, Australia is bouncing back far better than anyone could have imagined. Master Builders Australia estimated that 294,960 full-time jobs have been supported as a direct result of Homebuilder, giving builders and tradies opportunities in very difficult times. And we can look here. I have done the map showing you where the numbers are. Northern Territory only got 562. Queensland, 28,957. New South Wales, 25,937. South Australia, 13,939. 21,000 in WA. Victoria, the most at 39,000. With all the lockdowns, there you go. Tassie, 3,900. And ACT, which isn't coming up there, only had 2,939. But there you go, guys. Over 137 $1,000. So let's have a talk about this one. Now, is this a good thing? Government debt at a state and federal level is going to go completely up. The government will see a lot of this money that they've given out come back in the form of GST and other taxes. It's bringing future projects back, so there may be a lull in work going ahead, but some people haven't been able to even get any tradies to do their work, so they've had to hold off. Is it worth it? We'll have to wait and see, everyone. It's achieved their goals. It has stimulated the economy. It has overheated housing. Has it, pushed people into housing that they couldn't afford? Perhaps some, but we'll have to see. I mean, the struggle is saving for a deposit. People have liquidity buffers. And even if they got in at a 2% loan, I would be shocked if they'll instantly cave over. We've seen all the interventions that the banks did, that APRA did, to let people keep going. Remember, it's another election year as well. But there's a lot of debt there, guys. There's a lot of debt. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. Is it worth it or not? In the comments below. And before we finish, guys, we'll just jump over here and we'll have a look at how many of you took part in Homebuilder. 5% said yes, and 95% said no, everyone. And some of the comments here: couldn't earn too much, just got priced rises and delays. I suspect my teenage brat will stay home, so I took the 25K to extend, but I was ripped off by the builder when finished by 25K prices and up another 15, so it really sucks. So there you go. It's not pork is showing you the problem. It inflates the market. So it's not free money, guys. It's not free money. If anything, it distorts the market because it's an artificial intervention in there, and we all pay the price for it. But the goal was to get that economic activity. With that regards, well, for the governments, it worked. But it screwed all of us. That's how it works, guys. That's how it works. Sunrise, he doesn't want to move out because, why would I drive further out of Sydney? Yeah, but Sydney's its own place, mate. Got everything signed by the end of 2020 before the huge increase started. Moved in November last year after paying mortgage and rent for the best part of a year, which means we can see a lot of rate movement before we feel any stress. Plus, the values have improved so much that we have a huge buffer in case of any market shocks, negating the threat of foreclosure. There you go. That's the reality there, I think, for a lot of people. You'll be surprised. JK wanted to, but exceeded the income limit. No point paying inflated prices. Work not urgent. Yes, but I'm a brickie. I lifted my rate. So they're, the 1 ounce silver club. Bloody tradies, eh? Always making bank. I wonder if we'll give you mates rates if you pay them in silver bars. Lee, I got land signed off and 20% put down before COVID, but didn't title until July of last year. Got my 25K just before Christmas. Slab is down and waiting for a frame. Fantastic. And Yanseng couldn't even get a tradie, guys. So a few mixed messages there, and if you want to keep voting, please do. And if you want to see some of the other comments, check it out on the community tab of this channel. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. And I will recommend one of the older Homebuilder videos I did. This is probably the last one in just the whole collection of videos on this topic that we've looked at. What do you think? I'll put another poll up and I'll point you to it. Do you think Homebuilder was a success or a failure? Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.